What's up guys, I'm JT Shaver with New Layer, and today I'm going to show you 4 easy lighting setups with a pair of lights that I consider to be one of the best portable kits out there. I'm talking about the Actionpanel and Smartpanel bicolor LEDs from Lupo. I post gear reviews every week, so if you're interested in ogling some lights, make sure you hit subscribe and follow me on social media for some behind the scenes stuff. Before I show you some real world lighting scenarios where these lights really shine, let me first cover the basics. Both of these lights are bicolor with a color temperature range from tungsten at 3200 Kelvin to daylight at 5600 Kelvin. They have a CRI and TLCI of 96 and 98 respectively, so they produce really high quality light. The Actionpanel can be powered with an AC adapter or with a V-mount battery, and the smaller Smartpanel can do the same, but it also natively accepts NPF batteries and can also draw power from USB-C. The defining feature for both of these lights is their focusing lens, and the plastic part in front of the actual LEDs focuses the light into a tighter beam, making it brighter and able to be used at longer distances. The last thing that I want to mention is that although the Actionpanel does have a fan, it's the quietest fan I've ever heard, and if you want to use the light at 50% power or less, you can actually turn it off manually. But again, I can't stress enough that this fan is dead silent. Check the links in the description if you want to see all of the technical specs, but for now, let's go over a few lighting scenarios so you can see how these lights perform. For this first setup, I'm outside on a bright and sunny day, and I'm using the Actionpanel as a fill or key light and the Smartpanel as a backlight. I've got both lights set to 5600 Kelvin, and I'll list the brightness that I used on the screen. To me, it's very impressive that you can use these lights in a situation like this, because the Actionpanel is only 8 inches by 8 inches square, and the smaller Smartpanel is only 3 by 6 inches. One of my favorite things about these lights is because they have the focusing lens to create their brightness at a relatively low power, you can run them much longer on batteries than lights that have a wider beam angle and require more power to get the same brightness. Setup number 2 is what you've been looking at this whole time. Normally I use a big softbox with a grid for my key light, but in this situation I'm using the Actionpanel with a small shoot-through umbrella for my key light, and I'm using the Smartpanel as a backlight. The Actionpanel is set to 5600 Kelvin at just 35% brightness, and the Smartpanel as the backlight is set to 3200 Kelvin at around 15% brightness. For the Actionpanel, that means I could run it for about 8 hours continuously using my 190 watt-hour V-mount battery. And for me, that's about a week or even 2 weeks of filming videos like this. Normally I use a grid to focus the light and control the light spill, but because these lights have a focusing lens, they have a much tighter beam angle. That means I can use them without barn doors, and there's very little light hitting anything but what I'm pointing the lights directly at. Setup number 3 is a little bit less in-depth, but it's still really useful. I removed the right side handle and then flipped the top handle on my small rig cage to face forward. Then I used a small rig articulating arm to mount the Smartpanel in the cold shoe on the handle of my cage. This is one of my favorite setups for macro shots. Because you can get the light in really close to your subject, and again because of the focusing lens, you can use this light to completely change the lighting outdoors in the shade and even start to overpower the sun, or at least use it as a fill light in bright sunlight. With this light perched over my Canon 100mm macro lens, I get proper exposure at about 1/125th of a second, f11 and ISO 200. At those settings, I can get really sharp macro shots handheld, and if I want to get some video, I can shoot at 1/50th of a second at f16 or even higher depending on my ISO. So this is a really fun combo to just quickly walk around and get all kinds of macro shots really easily. The fourth and last setup that I want to show you is kind of silly, but it's also kind of really awesome. You can do this with the smaller Smartpanel if you want something extra lightweight, but I wanted to show you with the Actionpanel because it's still pretty darn easy. So I've got the Actionpanel mounted on top of my camera cage with a V-mount battery attached. This setup is not as heavy as you might think because Lupo uses a material called technopolymer, which is a kind of reinforced plastic, and it's in a whole different league than other cheap plastics. And because the maximum power draw of this light is around 60 watts, you can use a mid-size V-mount battery and run it at 100% for around 2 to 3 hours. The bicolor version of the Actionpanel, which is what I have, is $588, but if you buy it in what Lupo calls their Action Pack, You also get the diffuser, the V-mount adapter with a D-tap cable, as well as one of the best and biggest backpacks that I've ever seen. Seriously, the backpack alone is worth $200 or $300. It's really high quality, and you can fit something like 2 action panels, 2 smart panels, all the accessories, and a few V-mount batteries inside. In my opinion, the backpack is a must-have for these lights, and it makes it one of the best location kits you can buy. The bicolor smart panel is $159, and honestly that makes it one of the best bargains for a handheld LED, especially compared to other similar lights. Now, I wouldn't put the action panel in the budget category, obviously because of the price, but also because it has a much higher build quality and attention to detail that fixes 2 of the main issues that I have with smaller LED panels. The first thing that I keep mentioning is that the action panel is just that much brighter than other small LED panels, to the point where it can actually be useful in a wide variety of situations, where I found other small LED panels to be borderline useless simply because they are not bright enough. The second thing is that other LED panels typically just don't have good control over light spill, even if you're using the barn doors. So the magic in the Lupo lights is the focusing lens, because it fixes those issues and simplifies everything into a really compact form factor. The only thing that bothers me about these lights are the diffusers. Now, they work really well, but they're just kind of finicky to put on. The cube-shaped one that goes on the action panel is especially hard to get on, and they both require thumb screws to attach them to the lights. They're not the worst that I've ever used, but they're just not ideal. With all that said, I think these are some of the most versatile lights that I've ever come across. They're perfect for run-and-gun situations because they are so lightweight, and because they're so bright, they're really good for indoor or outdoor interviews or talking head type videos like this. I'll have links to these lights in the description, and they are affiliate links, but it doesn't cost you anything extra, and it really does help me create more videos like this. So what do you think? Do you think the added cost to these lights is worth it over the budget options? And how would you see yourself using these lights? Leave a comment and let me know what you think. That's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.